Good evening, I'm Keith Tate.
I'm Gail Searins. Thank you for joining us this evening. A fortune in insurance money intended for new roofs. Where did that money go? An 8 on Your Side investigation shows dozens of homeowners all have similar stories. And investigative reporter Mark Douglas uncovered 2 managers at the center of it all have a history of dubious deals across 11 states.
When Tropical Storm Debbie blew through the Bay Area last year, it left behind an insurance windfall, a windfall that homeowner Pamela Bainon didn't learn about until months later. That's when a roofing company named NBRC Construction showed up with an offer to replace her roof practically for free.
They came through the neighborhood canvassing and, telling us we could get a new roof filed through our insurance company.
Homeowner Greg Larson says he didn't buy NBRC's sales pitch when he first heard it.
And I told him, it sounds too good to be true.
But after NBRC filed a roof insurance claim for his neighbor, Joe Ziegler,
they issued him a check for over $12,000.
Larson was all in.
And we said, well, we'll give it a shot and see what happens.
Oh, he saw what happened, all right. 6 months later, Greg Larson now faces an $8,300 lien filed by NBRC's roofing contractor and another $4,500 lien filed by the shingle supplier.
We trusted that they were going to pay the bills that they were supposed to.
Those companies filed liens against Larson because NBRC never paid them, even though his insurance company says it paid NBRC. Do you think you were deliberately taken advantage of?
Absolutely.
Tricked? Joe Ziegler faces a $4,000 lien from a different supply company NBRC failed to pay.
We didn't do anything wrong. We haven't done a thing wrong.
And Pamela Bainon never did get the new roof her insurance company paid NBRC to install 3 months ago.
So they have been paid in full over $9,000.
So why don't you have a new roof?
Good question.
NBRC's lawyer blames Bainon's problem on a roofing contractor who suddenly resigned and hard economic times.
These people need to be stopped. I'm on a fixed income. I'm disabled. I don't know what to do. I'm at a total loss.
Former NBRC salesman Scott August says he now believes what happened to Bainon, Larson, and Ziegler is happening to other NBRC customers in Pasco, Pinellas, Hillsborough, Polk, Manatee, and Sarasota counties. August says he feels terrible about his role in recruiting some of those homeowners.
I signed them up under the best intentions that they should have gotten what they paid for.
According to state records, a man named Kenneth Dunko ran NBRC from this corporate headquarters on Causeway Boulevard in Tampa. But former workers and business associates say 2 other men actually called the shots here. And as we now know, those guys are no strangers to law enforcement. 2 years ago, Georgia authorities arrested Carlton Dunko and Frank Martin Pureber on theft charges for pocketing insurance claim money intended to pay for roof replacements. Georgia prosecutors haven't formally charged Dunko or Pureber, but the allegations that led law enforcement to arrest them sound familiar.
It sounds very familiar. It's the exact same thing that's happening to us.
At the time, Carlton Dunko and Frank Pureber ran a company called American Shingle and Siding. Back then, their business practices triggered a nationwide alert by the Better Business Bureau, which logged hundreds of complaints across 11 states.
I don't understand how they're allowed to do business if this was something that got this far down the road.
Scott August says a few months ago, when he and other NBRC employees first found out about his boss's past arrests in Georgia, Carlton Dunko blamed insurance companies.
They basically told me that they had some problems up there and that the insurance companies were trying to run them out of business and withheld some money from them and they couldn't put people's roofs on.
According to state records, Kenneth Dunko resigned from NBRC back in May. NBRC has closed its offices, and our effort to locate Carlton Dunko and Frank Martin Pureber have been unsuccessful. Both men are out on bond following their arrest for theft in Georgia 2 years ago. Georgia prosecutors tell me they're still reviewing that case and haven't filed formal charges. NBRC's Tampa attorney says no one from that company wants to talk to me, but Gail, we're going to keep asking questions because the people that they did business with who've come to us, they deserve some answers.
Well, they sure do, Mark. And how about everybody else? How about other consumers? How can we protect ourselves from falling for something like this?
Well, first and foremost, never sign your rights away without consulting with an attorney. That's what everyone did in this case. They signed over all the benefits for their insurance claims directly to NBRC. And the moment they did that, they lost control of the money. And when they went back to the insurance companies, they said, Not our problem.
Yeah, but who knew going into that, right? They
No,
just trusted the guys to do what they thought they were going to do.
They went in good faith.
Yeah, Mark, thank you. And if you would like to share your experience with this company, good or bad, we'd like to hear from you. Email us at 8onyourside@WFLA.com.
State agents with Florida's Department of Financial Services are looking into the target of an 8 on Your Side investigation. Since December, fraud investigators say they have received 90 complaints about NBRC Construction, a company that offers to replace roofs through insurance claims. This week, our investigation revealed how NBRC has collected insurance money from homeowners in 6 different counties, but in dozens of cases failed to replace roofs or pay contractors. Investigative reporter Mark Douglas tells us the story does not end there.
The patter of rain on the rooftop is never relaxing at the Fava house. There's no silver lining under this blue tarp. How has this affected your life?
It's been miserable.
It stinks.
Robert and Sarah Fava have been trying to replace their storm-damaged roof since January. They showed us ceiling stains, mold problems, and holes where leaks have waterlogged their drywall. It must be terrible to have to live under these circumstances.
Absolutely. I'm terrified the roof's going to cave in on my daughter when she's sleeping.
The Favas say back in January, a roofing company named NBRC knocked on their door and promised to end their worries. This is how NBRC's proposal was supposed to work. NBRC would file a storm damage insurance claim, collect the proceeds directly from the Favas insurance company, and use that money to replace their roof. All the Favas had to do is pay the deductible.
They have received 50% of our insurance claim.
And what did you get for that 50%?
A little blue tarp.
The Favas didn't know that other homeowners in 6 Bay Area counties were also having trouble with NBRC until they happened to see our 8 on Your Side investigation.
Fortune in insurance money intended for new roofs. Where did that money go?
My jaw hit the floor.
2 of the managers running NBRC had no interest in talking to us today. Mr. Perber, isn't this the same thing that happened in Georgia? They're out on bond after an arrest on theft charges in Georgia. Police there arrested Carlton Dwayne Dunko and Henry Martin Perber 2 years ago for collecting insurance money and failing to replace roofs or pay contractors. The same kind of thing that homeowner after homeowner after homeowner tell us they're doing here.
It sounds very familiar. It's the exact same thing that's happening to us.
Back in Georgia, Dunko and Perber ran a company called American Shingle, which became the subject of a nationwide alert by the Better Business Bureau based on consumer complaints in 11 states. Now the Favas say they're getting the runaround from the company Dunko and Perber run in Florida, NBRC.
We've probably called them a good 30, 40, 50 times throughout the last 9 months of dealing with this. And
the Favas say they usually deal with a man named Alex, hired by NBRC for customer service. A few days ago, Alex told Robert Fava that even though NBRC was in a real financial mess, he was still on the job. Alex told Fava he's trying to help upset customers, even though he had nothing to do with the company's troubled finances. When Fava questioned why Alex sometimes uses the name Chaz in his NBRC dealings, Alex said that's because he's also a hip-hop entertainer known as DJ Chaz Royal.
I'm mortified. Mortified.
And here's another surprise, one that Alex didn't share. His legal name is Charles Russell Royal, and he's now serving probation for grand theft, forgery, and fraud. But hey, the news isn't all bad. At least Royal hasn't been arrested lately for burglary or trafficking in stolen property, crimes that sent him to prison 3 years ago, or selling heroin and some of the other things that have landed him in jail 10 times in Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco counties. Sarah Fava says she's dumbfounded by Royal's criminal background and the Georgia theft arrests of Dunko and Perber. But all she wants at the end of the day is a new roof.
And they're out living the high life on everyone else's money.
While you're living under a blue tarp.
While we're living under a blue tarp.
Charles Royal, also known as Alex and DJ Chaz, says he doesn't want to talk to me except to say that he hasn't done anything wrong in his role with NBRC Construction. Meanwhile, as you just saw in our story, Carlton Dunko and Frank Martin Perber refused to answer any of my questions. Georgia prosecutors haven't decided yet whether to file formal charges against them. Meanwhile, here back in Florida, we're going to keep asking questions about all of that missing insurance money, Stacy, until we get to the bottom of this. And it looks like that state law enforcement agencies, the Department of Financial Services, has some questions too.
Yeah, this is not over.
Not by
There's
any
a
means.
lot more to go. All right, thank you, Mark. And if you'd like to share your experience with this company, by the way, good or bad, we want to hear from you. Email us at 8onyourside@WFLA.com.
The target of an 8 on your side investigation is living in luxury tonight, despite owing a fortune to customers, contractors, even the state of Arkansas. Investigative reporter Mark Douglas tells us Carlton Dunko appears to have more time to party than pay his bills or answer our questions.
You gotta hand it to Carlton Dunko. He knows how to party. That's Dunko at the company Christmas Gala for NBRC Construction. On paper, his wife owns the roofing firm, but associates say the real Santas in that outfit are Dunko and his business partner, Frank Perber. Dunko even cracked a joke about it.
Everyone turn around. I sign paychecks.
State investigators say Dunko and Perber have made a fortune with this business scheme. Door-to-door salesmen tell homeowners they have roof damage from storms, then convince them to file insurance claims and assign all benefits directly to NBRC, which arranges for contractors to replace the roofs.
They fixed part of the roof and not the whole roof and left me with this mess.
Homeowner Mark McGinnis says it was last October when a salesman from NBRC showed up at his door saying storm insurance would pay for a new roof. It didn't matter that the storm in question had rolled through a year and a half earlier. McGinnis signed a $17,000 contract and gave NBRC full control of the insurance proceeds. Did it seem like a pretty good deal at the time?
It did. It seemed like a great deal.
How about now?
No. It ain't no great deal now.
The trouble is his flat roof still leaks. McGinnis says he's legally blind, but even he can see that.
And it's leaking, it's still leaking.
3 years ago, the Better Business Bureau issued a nationwide alert about Dunko and Perber's former company called American Shingle after receiving hundreds of consumer complaints in 11 states. Now Florida's Department of Financial Services tells me it's getting calls about their latest venture, NBRC.
Well, we received close to 100 complaints regarding NBRC roofing.
State fraud investigators are working the case based on those complaints and new information we've broadcast in our 8 on Your Side investigation.
We're going to evaluate this for criminal charges, present it to either the statewide prosecutor or the local state attorney offices.
Burns is investigating $4 to $5 million worth of suspicious claims related to NBRC. And our investigation reveals that even when insurance companies pay those claims, some homeowners end up without repairs, while others are stuck with liens from unpaid contractors.
There's a lot of people really hurting out there.
2 years ago, Georgia authorities arrested Dunko and Perber for theft in connection with American Shingle, and they're still out on bond while prosecutors consider filing formal charges. Meanwhile, an Arkansas judge has ordered the men to pay $1.5 million for civil fraud. Arkansas's Attorney General says they ran a Ponzi scheme that left homeowners in despair while they paid themselves up to $10,000 a week. In bankruptcy court, Dunko and his wife now claim they're broke. But somehow, they live in this 6-bedroom home in South Tampa they rent for $3,000 a month. Perber has filed for bankruptcy too, but both men appear to have money for good walking shoes, or so it seemed when I tried to interview them. Mr. Perber, isn't this the same thing that happened in Georgia? Too bad they couldn't stick around, because we wanted to know what happened to the millions in insurance claims handled by NBRC. And guess what, fellas? We're not the only ones.
Where did all this money go? It has to be somewhere, and we got to find it.
Attorneys hired by NBRC blame the company's money troubles on insurance companies and the economy. We now have reason to believe NBRC has done business with more than 1,200 customers since it formed in 2011. At this point, NBRC is about 3 months behind on its office rent and no longer has a licensed contractor affiliated with the company. Gail?
But here's the deal, Mark. If American Shingle had this notorious history, how is Dunko able to come back and do work in the state of Florida, in the roofing business? How's that happen?
Well, he basically deliberately tried to hide his involvement. Essentially, he put the company in his wife's name. The parent company is registered in Delaware, where company ownership is a state secret, or at least it was till we let it out.
And boy, have you. Keep it going.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.